Afternoon. It is day two of the confirmation of charges against former President Rodrigo Duterte. We'll give you the highlights of day one and later on day two of the confirmation of charges against the former President Rodrigo Duterte. This is KBS's special coverage on the Duterte sa CIC. I'm Rod Cyril de Matera. We were simulcast here on DZAM Teleradio and DZAM 99.1 Pinoy FM. This is the KBS's special coverage on the Duterte sa CIC. As we mentioned here on KBS, we'll give you the highlights of the day one of the confirmation of charges against former President Rodrigo Duterte. Uh, we'll give you the here. The opening of the former President Rodrigo Duterte's confirmation of charges hearing was met with approval with both drug war victims and Filipino supporters, also leaders, which with each side remaining optimistic after the prosecution, defense, and victims panel presented their evidence before the International Criminal Court. The prosecutors are trial ready. That's what the CIEC assistant to counsel Cristina Conti told KBS News. She also said opening statements could have been avarized as politicizing the issue, emphasizing the situation of the Philippines, but no, he dove straight into the evidence. He said the underscoring that the ICC Deputy Prosecutor Mame Mandaye Niyang was a former judge of the International Criminal Tribunal. Uh, also, several members of the Duterte's legal team downplayed how prosecution used clips of former presidents' public speeches where he expectedly told his audience to kill suspected drug users and showed that he was a good help about 3 days before he was arrested and flown to the CIC. Dr. Mr. Bello III, former labor secretary of the Duterte administration, also said, "What we have, Karina, from the prosecution are mere allegations. It is so easy to make any presentation." Sabi also he said in Tagalog, madaling magsabi na mamamatay tao siya pero what is the proof? May namatay pero anong proof mo na siya yung pumatay o nagpatay? That's the meaning. The meaning of what I said is I'll translate it to English from what he said. There's a there's a person died, but what is the proof? If Duterte is the killer or Duterte ordered to kill a person. Former presidential chief legal counsel Salvador Padelo also lauded Duterte's primarily defense team to rebuting several arguments, pitting the Philippines' 16th president for the deaths of thousands of Filipinos while he was still in power. Despite these statements, the Panelo said he hoped that the defense would further emphasize the ICC's lack of jurisdiction in Duterte's case. The ICC pre-trial chamber one earlier denied the defense panel's claim that the chamber had no jurisdiction against the former president. An appeal is still pending. The first day of the confirmation charges hearing focused on the first stage of crimes against humanity filed against Duterte. highlighted pieces of evidence demonstrating how he supposedly ordered to kill a drug suspect and even personal enemies while he was still serving as the mayor of Davao City. In another news about this latest development, the prosecution panel urges the International Criminal Court to reject former President former President Rodrigo Duterte's defense team defense team's request to disclose information on the whereabouts of witnesses in the crimes against humanity against the former Philippine leader. The defense panel's earlier request to reduce the radicated parts of the witnesses who were set to appear before the court is bizarre. Deputy Prosecutor Mame Manday Ang said in a court file dated filing dated February 23. Also, in the same filing before the ICC's pretrial chamber 1, the prosecution panel rated its objection to the chamber's decision to follow Duterte's to waive his rights to attend his confirmation of charges hearing, noting that the panel even provided a special seating schedule to accommodate Mr. Duterte's participation in the pre-trial proceedings. Also, the prosecution said Mr. Duterte has yet to appear physically in the courtroom in a fact which was repeatedly complained about. There is 4 more days before the pre-trial chamber 1 to decide if it would consider its decision to allow the former president to skip the hearings and require his presence before the proceedings conclude on February 27. Okay, we will give you more news outside of this topic. Uh, House lawmakers in the Philippines in the House of Representatives filed Tuesday a bill seeking to declare the February 25, which marks the anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution, which is tomorrow, as a regular national public holiday. At present, the the commemorate the commemoration of the People Power Revolution is only a special working holiday, accompanied by Kiko Aquino D, grandson of the democracy icons Ninoy and Corazon Aquino. ML Party List Representative Laila de Lima filed House Bill number 8028, the measure to co-authorize by Liberal Party Congressman Representative Adrian Michael Amato, Edgar Reese, Fresnedin, and Alfonso Umali Jr. And those are the latest we can give you at this hour. Later, we'll be back for more news. From now on, we'll go to ANC's very own coverage, uh, their special coverage on the confirmation of charges against Duterte. Let's listen in, kabayan.
ni Attorney Kaufman bilang abogado ni dating Pangulong Duterte, hindi na niya ah, ni-raise no yung question ng jurisdiction dahil ang sa tingin niya no batay dun sa kanyang opening statement, sa tingin niya hindi naman mapapatunayan ng prosecution yung kaso. Batay yan dun sa sinabi niya kahapon.
Mm-mm.
So maybe dahil sa tingin po niya ay hindi mapapatunayan, hindi na niya kailangan i-raise yung jurisdiction.
Mm. Le-
I mean, I'm speculating
Yeah.
based on what he said yesterday.
Oo. Let's get into the performance of the defense bago sa prosecution. Anything that struck you na hindi mo inaasahan na yun ang gagawin ng defense, na yun ang gagawin niyang strategiya no sa kanyang mga statements, sa kanyang opening statements kahapon, Attorney Te?
Siguro yung unang-una, Carmina, is that yung opening statements no bilang proseso, hindi tayo sanay dyan kasi dito sa korte natin, mga trial courts po natin, wala po tayong system ng opening statement. No? In the trial courts, ang nangyayari po dyan, pinipresenta yung witness, hinahain siya, tapos direct examination, may series of questions that are asked, tapos may cross-examination. Doon usually nangyayari yung paglabas po ng mga facts. Ano? Dito sa sistema nila ng ICC, no, merong sistema ng opening statements, especially during this stage na may confirmation charges. At dito nilalatag yung teorya ng prosecution, yung teorya ng depensa, at yung teorya ng biktima. No? So, yun yung unang-una na kailangan natin tingnan na kakaiba dito sa ICC procedure. Pangalawa, dun sa sinabi ni Attorney Kaufman, well, dahil siya ay counsel for the defense, no? Expected yun na talagang kukunin niya yung posisyon ng dating Pangulo at he will take on the issues that would support no a theory that the former president is innocent and that the former president should be that he should not proceed to trial and that he should be returned. No? So hindi surprise yun, nasasabihin niya yun kasi siyempre siya ay counsel for the defense. What I found surprising was yung kanyang focus on the words of the former president. Dahil yun mismo yung teorya ng prosecution na alam ni dating Pangulong Duterte na kung ano yung ginagawa niya nung sinabi niya itong mga to. Nung binanggit niya yung mga pagpatay, nung binanggit niya yung mga pangako niya sa kampanya, na alam ng dating Pangulo na may epekto yan at may mangyayari. No? So, I was a little surprised that yun yung naging teorya ng depensa kasi
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done in a list view. Next, I set a priority.
Katulad ng ano po? Katulad ng ano po?
well, ang unang maaaring teorya niya, siguro ayokong siguro pangunahan din si Kaufman, no? At baka maging maging abogado pa dating Pangulong Duterte. Pero ang usual kasi na ginagawa ng counsel for the defense, no? Is really just to give the burden to the prosecution. Meaning, hindi mo kayang patunayan ito. At dahil hindi mo kayang patunayan, wala akong kailangan sabihin. No? That's why I was surprised that medyo, mahaba, madetalye yung kanyang yung opening statement niya. Because as counsel for the defense, the only thing you need to do is to say that the prosecution does not have enough evidence and cannot prove it.
Kasi tama ho ba, sorry to cut you there, Attorney Teno, pero tama ho ba na ang nangyari kahapon dun sa opening statements ni Kaufman ay parang may pag-ako Kasi hindi niya tinanggi na hindi ito sinabi ng Pangulo. Pero ang sabi niya, may pag-ako, pero meron din naman kasing sinabi na iba.
Yes. Ang ginawa kasi niya is effectively inamin niya na sinabi niya yan. Pero ang sinasabi na niya, contextualize with statement kasi may exonerating statements di umano, no? Which the counsel Nicole, the second counsel, basically, also raised na in fact may paghaamon siya. Sinabi niya, kaya natanggalin mo lahat ng statement na yan, kaya pa namin ipatunayan na siya ay guilty, no? So for me, kaya nag-umpisa ako by saying that yung opening statements, hindi tayo sanay dyan, no? Pero si Kaufman, veteranong abogado sa ICC, no? Aware siya sa procedure ng ICC, and aware siya that a defense counsel really does not need to say much, because the main thing that someone who is detained, no, at the ICC, even at this stage na may confirmation of charges pa at wala pang charges na umaabot sa korte, that person has a presumption of innocence against in his favor, no? At ang burden talaga ay nasa prosecution. Dahil pag dito sa stage na to ay meron ka nang i-reveal, no? Maaaring paghandaan ng prosecution, which in fact the prosecution did, no? Kahapon dun sa unang substantive statement that the prosecution said, no, na medyo may rebuttal na doon pa lang sa stage na yon, no. So medyo na-surprise ako doon kasi I was expecting a short statement, a very short, direct, curt statement that said, hindi sapat ang ebidensya, hindi nyo kailangang mapapatunayan ito, no. Ang lumabas pa, ang pangalawa na medyo na-surprise ako doon is that hindi lang inakaw ni Counsel Kaufman yung mga salita ni Duterte, siya mismo sinasabi niya, naniniwala siya, no? In fact, he characterized the war on drugs, no, as a lawful one, no? So now, effectively may burden siya to show that it's a lawful campaign, no? He said that he stands by the legacy, and therefore ngayon kailangan niya patunayan yun kasi siya ang nagbanggit nun na lawful yung war on drugs, no? That the Davao model, work. And so by saying those things, no, basically nilalatag niya yung kailangan niya patunayan. But if that's the thing, he simply limited himself, no, in the opening statement by saying that walang sapat na batayan, no, at aabot at hindi dapat umabot sa trial dahil walang substantial evidence, no. Tingin ko sapat na yun kasi unang-una, as you said earlier, no, hindi pa naman ito yung trial This is a preliminary stage, an in-between stage from the arrest and custody and the trial. So sa tingin ko, in terms of tactics, surprising yun.
There's another thing that surprised me as I was monitoring last night at hindi ko alam kung nabigyan nyo rin ng pansin ito, no? Yung pag-atake niya, right off the bat, yung pag-atake niya kay Pangulong Marcos. Hindi pa man siya pumupunta dun sa opening statement niya mismo, pero parang meron siyang may pasakali Inatake niya yung administrasyong Marcos at ang media. Isinama niya sa kanyang opening statements na para bagang gawa-gawa ito ng media. He said something like it was the media was cherry-picking certain portions of the former president's speeches at ito daw ang pinapakalat. Pero kung ganun nga ang nangyari, paano may explain, Attorney Te, yung libo-libong namatay kung ganito lamang pala ang kahihinat na ng kanilang argumento? Go ahead po.
Surprising yun kasi he started out by basically emphatically saying, this is a court of law, this is a legal proceeding, focus sa law, not on the politics, and then he proceeded to talk about politics. He proceeded to mention all of these things that had nothing to do with the law. No, my thinking was he was speaking to a specific audience, and it wasn't to the court. It wasn't to the pre-trial chamber. He was speaking to the people outside. No? He was speaking to supporters of the former president. So whatever reason there was behind that, obvious that the first part, and even siguro the most part of yung opening statement niya, really was not directed to the pre-trial chamber.
Yeah.
Kasi meron siyang audience
But what's the danger? What's the danger there? Alam natin ang ICC hindi ba? Alam natin na very insulated yan, very internal ang kanilang mga diskusyon. For him to do that, meron ho ba siyang hindi nakikita na maaring maging epekto dun sa ginawa po niya?
Tingin ko, I don't agree with what he did, but again, I don't know if he has something that we know, he knows that we don't know, or that we haven't seen yet. But batay kasi sa dating nangyari, no? And matter of record ito that yung mga motions na final nila ay kumbaga napasama pa dahil nga contradictory yung mga statements, yung mga galing sa labas, di ba? So, for him to, speak to the people outside, not to the chamber, not to the judges of the ICC, I think was a little strange kasi yun yung forum niya to really address the judges and say there is no substantial basis to believe that his client committed the act charge, no? At pag talagang napakita niya na walang substantial basis, hindi lulusot yung charges, no? And I'm not sure whether that kind of a tactic would work on the ICC judges. Kasi nga, medyo, well, they're independent. They really don't mind what's going on outside. I'm
Right.
sure they are aware of what is going on outside. Probably first time sa kanila yon na may nagka-camp out, no? Na meron ng de facto Duterte Street outside the Hague, outside the ICC. And despite that, they have shown that, hindi naman sila natitinag dun sa mga nangyayari. So I'm not sure kung whether that was a tactic and whether there was a reason behind that and why he would do that.
Conversely, let's go to the prosecution side. Ano naman po ang tingin ninyong pinakita ng prosecution sa day 1 ng Duterte sa ICC kahapon po, Attorney Te?
As expected, the prosecution outlined its case. In the opening statement, the deputy prosecutor was quite methodical, no? Almost emotionless. In-outline yung charges, ito. Pinakita niya na wide scale, sinabi niya na wide scale, sinabi niya na pattern. In fact, he was so precise and so methodical, he spent a lot of time on his references. No? Binabanggit niya pati yung mga parang footnote. Ito yung tab number, ito yung ganitong reference. Because he wanted the judges, he was talking to the judges, he wanted the judges to know, ito specifically yung basis na sinasabi ko. No? And so, I found the opening statement quite methodical, quite precise, and clear. No? Ito yung nilatag niya, ito yung papakita ko. And that is the function of the opening statement. The second statement by the prosecutor dun sa submission on the merits, no, I found very interesting because while he did not detail, he did not identify witnesses by name, no, he gave a narrative, and the narrative, I think, places context to what we will hear, today, and I think today, kasi the prosecution submission on the merits is today. Yung narrative na yon, I think will be a frame for the flesh and the substance that we'll hear today. Pinakita niya doon yung mga lumang litrato, video, which I think gives the ICC that perspective na ito ay pattern, ito ay wholesale, alam ni dating Pangulo kung anong ginagawa niya nung sinabi na ito. He emphasized that he was a lawyer, he is a lawyer, he was a prosecutor, he even taught law to police, yung mga video na pinakita niya na pinapanood yung CCTV, pointing out to a prosecutor apparently who he was talking to, na kung ganito yung ugali ng isang mayor na nakikita na niya na may krimen na nangyari, at talagang dinisregard niya, then how can this person be said to be someone who likes to uphold law, So I think that was very effective, because it was basically an introduction of the former president to the ICC, using his own words, using his own previous conduct. So, very interesting yun because for me, I think it provided a frame for what we will hear today. And I think today, mas magiging specific yung pagdetalye kung ano yung laman, nilalaman ng charges. I do not know whether they will identify the witnesses by name. They do not need to. But I think for most of us who have been following the cases, more or less we know kung sino yung tinutukoy nila.
Yeah.
In fact, kahapon,
But
yung
do you
mga
think
binabanggit na statements,
yeah.
hindi na identify, pero we know who they are.
Sorry to cut you there, Attorney Ted, but
Sure.
do you think that at this point, and knowing the gravity of the case, do you think that it would serve the prosecution well to have these witnesses appear at this particular juncture, even if it's just in the pre-trial stage?
Alam mo, Camila, you know, that is a judgment call by the prosecution.
All
If
rise,
they
veuillez
feel
vous lever.
that they can already substantiate the charges without presenting the witnesses, they will.
The International Criminal Court is now in session. L'audience de la Cour pénale internationale est ouverte. Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
Nagsisimula na po ang the confirmation of charges against former President Rodrigo Duterte has started. Let's listen in.
And Madam Court Officer, if you could please call the case.
Good morning, Madam President, Your Honors. Situation in the Republic of the Philippines in the case of the prosecutor versus Rodrigo Roa Duterte, case reference ICC 0121-0125, and for the record, we are in open session.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I would now like to call upon parties and participants to confirm that the people here in the courtroom are the same as the ones present yesterday. Mr. Prosecutor?
Madame la Présidente.
Good morning, Madam President, Your Honors. There are a few changes in the composition of the OTP team today. I'm here representing the office, as was the case yesterday. Beside me is Julian Nichols, senior trial lawyer. He was here yesterday. I also have Edward Jeremy with me, trial lawyer. Robin Croft, trial lawyer. Ai Do Young, associate trial lawyer. Sylvie Wakam, associate trial lawyer. Loria. And finally, James Miriti, our case manager. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Prosecutor. Legal representatives of victims. Good morning, Madam President. Only one change on our team. We have one change, a defection actually. One of our team members could not be with us actually.
Composition today, and we are once again ably assisted and supported by our Filipino colleagues in the gallery.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Prosecutor, you may now address the court regarding submissions on the merits. It is Mr. Jeremy who will be giving this presentation.
Thank you, Madam President. Your Honours, dear colleagues, my name is Edward Jeremy, and over the next 45 minutes or so, I will focus on some of the evidence that demonstrates Mr. Duterte's responsibility for the crimes charged in counts 2 and 3. My presentation will comprise two parts. Part 1 will focus on the crimes charged in count 2, and as you know, this count relates to the murders of 14 so-called high-value targets. And part 2 will focus on examples of crimes charged in count 3, and this count relates to murders and attempted murders of 45 victims in the course of barangay or neighborhood clearance operations. First, Your Honour, is a brief introduction. As Mr. Nichols made clear yesterday, Mr. Duterte campaigned for the presidency that, on the basis that, if elected, he would implement his Davao model of killing on a national scale. And once sworn in as President of the Philippines on the 30th of June 2016, this is exactly what he did. One insider witness explained what applying the Davao model nationwide meant in practice, and this is tab 49. As we see on our screens, Evidence Channel 2, this witness stated, quote, "It means that he wants to apply how Davao addresses the drug problem in a national scope, the whole country. It means that zero tolerance on drugs. And what I understood is that we have to eliminate, neutralize drug pushers, just as in Davao." And as we've heard, this Davao model also included the payments of rewards for such killings. And as president, Mr. Duterte expanded and replicated this Davao model across the Philippines, working together with many of the same people, his co-perpetrators, following the same plan, and using the same methods. On becoming president, Mr. Duterte appointed his co-perpetrators from Davao, a number of whom Mr. Nichols introduced yesterday, to senior positions in the police and the government. And in these high-level positions, Mr. Duterte and his co-perpetrators had authority over thousands of state personnel, including those that formed the national network that the co-perpetrators used to carry out the charged crimes, as Ms. Croft will shortly describe in more detail. And, Your Honours, central to this plan to carry out the charged crimes was the formal national anti-illegal drugs campaign in the Philippines. And this campaign was launched through a document titled Command Memorandum Circular number 16, 2016. This was issued by newly appointed PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa on the 1st of July 2016, the first full day of Mr. Duterte's presidency. On our screens, we see the first and last page of this document, and this is tab 112 of our binder. We see that the subject is, quote, PNP Anti-Illegal Drugs Campaign Plan, Project Double Barrel. And we see it is dated the 1st of July 2016. On the first page, there are a series of supporting references for this memorandum. And the first foundational reference is the, quote, pronouncement of President Rodrigo R. Duterte to get rid of illegal drugs during the first 6 months of his term. And yesterday we heard multiple examples of the violent nature of those pronouncements and speeches. If we focus on the last page of this document, page 18, we see that the distribution list comprised the highest levels of law enforcement in the Philippines. And on the right side, we see it signed by Ronald M. De La Rosa, Philippine National Police, the PNP. And Your Honours, we'll look now at some parts of this document which essentially sets out general guidelines for the implementation of this project, Double Barrel. Focusing first on the execution of this project, Double Barrel, we see on in paragraph 5, now on our screens, as follows. The PNP intends to equally address illegal drug problems in the barangays and at the same time pursue the neutralization of illegal drug personalities, as well as the backbone of illegal drugs network operating in the country. And Your Honours will note the use of this word neutralization. While on its face, this word may be open to interpretation, insider witnesses provide evidence that within law enforcement within the Netherlands, within the Philippines, to neutralize meant to kill. And notably, one insider witness explained the significance of the use of this word neutralize in this command memorandum, and that's tab 54. And the witness stated as follows, quote, "They used the word neutralize to emphasize the kill order of President Duterte, because that is the promise of President Duterte even before the campaign." And, Your Honours, the sprinkling of references to human rights. Moving on to the concept of operations, this is set out on page 3 of this memorandum as follows, quote, "The PMP anti-illegal drugs campaign plan, Project Double Barrel, will be conducted in a two-pronged approach, namely Project Tokang and Project HVT. The first prong or barrel, Project Tokang, focused on the clearance of the drug-affected barangays. And this relates to count 3, which I'll discuss shortly in the second part of my presentation. The second barrel, which relates to count 2, was Project HVT, or High Value Target, which I will focus on now. Turning to page 6 of this document, we read as follows. Project HVT is a massive and reinvigorated conduct of anti-illegal drugs operations, targeting illegal drugs personalities and drug syndicates. And as your honours are aware, it was in the course of this project HVT that the prosecution alleges the 14 victims of count 2 were murdered. And many of the high-value target victims of count 2 incidents were included in charts and lists that Mr. Duterte showed during public, often televised appearances and speeches. And just as he did in Davao, as president, Mr. Duterte publicly named persons he alleged were involved in drugs, and many of those would end up as victims in his so-called war on drugs. For example, on the 7th of August 2016, Mr. Duterte held a televised press conference in Davao City, during which he named 150 public officials who he claimed were involved in the drug trade. These included Albrera Mayor Rolando Espinosa and Osamis Mayor Reynaldo Parahinog, as well as various members of the Parahinog family. This speech is at tab 31, and we'll play 2 clips of that now.
Reynaldo Parahinog, alias Andong, the mayor of Osamis City. Nova Princess Parahinog Chavez used to be the wife of, I think, Colanco. Yung poster boy doon sa blandi-blandi pambuhok. Hindi naman, tisoy. Alam mo, baskin saya magpunta, abangan ko kayo. Kasi wala na ako sa presidency, habang may baril ako.
Wherever you go, I will be waiting for you, even if I'm no longer president, as long as I have a gun. And indeed, as your honours are aware, Mr. Duterte did not need to wait long. On the 5th of November 2016, Mayor Espinosa was murdered. That's charged incident 13. Then, on the 30th of July 2017, Mayor Parahinog, together with a number of others, was also murdered. That's charged incident 14. And during the same speech that we just saw, Mr. Duterte emphasized his direct involvement in the preparation of this list as follows.
Third, the validation. I'm the one reading it, and I am the sole person responsible for this all.
And this list was subsequently published by the media, who referred to it as the narco list, or as we see from the article on our screens, simply the Duterte list. And Your Honours, Mr. Duterte continued to flaunt his list of so-called high-value targets. Perhaps the most significant of these lists was the President Rodrigo Roa Duterte list, or the PRRD list for short, and that's at tab 48 of our list of materials. Your Honours, this was basically an Excel-style spreadsheet that listed persons alleged to be high-value targets. The slide now on our screen shows the first